Today, we're going to dive deep into a single, really powerful Hebrew word for God's love. It's a word that points to an intimacy, a bond, that our usual English words like mercy or love they just can't quite capture.
So let me just ask you this. What if the way we talk about God's love is actually limited by our own vocabulary? What if there's a concept out there that's more primal, more instinctual, and way more essential to our very being than we even realize? All right, so to really get our heads around this unique idea, we first have to understand what it isn't. The source material makes this really crucial distinction between this word, raham, and other Hebrew terms for love that you might be more familiar with. Okay, so on one hand, you've got words like chesed. That's often translated as mercy or loving kindness. Then there is ahav, which is seen as this really high form of unconditional love. But then you have racham. This one is even more intense, and it's used almost exclusively to talk about God's specific love for us. It's kind of in a category all by itself. So what on earth makes it so different?
Well, the secret, the real key, is hidden right inside the word's origin, in its etymological DNA, if you will. And this is where the concept just completely opens up and shows you how deep it really goes.
That's right, the word racham comes from the Hebrew root word for the womb. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just some pretty poetic idea. It is baked right into the language itself. God's racham love is, at its very core, a womb-like love.
So let's unpack that. What does it actually mean for a love to be womb-like? What are the characteristics of that kind of incredibly profound connection?
Well, for starters, it's instinctual. It's deep-seated, just like a mother's bond with her unborn child. It's also intensely protective. It's a love that shelters and nurtures. And here's the absolute key. It exists before it can ever be earned. A child in the womb doesn't have to do anything to deserve that love. It's just there, totally unconditional from the very start. It all points to this profound spiritual bond that's just fundamental to who we are.
So the big challenge, as the source material points out, is finding a single English word that can carry all of that weight. It's tough. The author of this study really wrestled with it, trying to find a modern term that could get across this intense, life-giving intimacy. And the word he landed on was caress. Think about that. A caress is this gentle, affirming, life-giving touch. The parallel he's drawing here is so powerful. Just like a newborn literally needs physical touch to survive, our souls have a very similar fundamental need for this spiritual caress from God. And this idea is perfectly illustrated by the very real medical condition known as failure to thrive. It's a known fact. A newborn baby needs physical touch to survive. Without it, they literally fail to thrive. The source suggests the exact same thing is true for our souls. We need God's rachem, this divine caress, in order to spiritually thrive. Without it, we languish. Now, when you start to see it this way, it completely reframes the entire purpose of worship and our connection to the divine. It just shifts the focus so dramatically, especially when you think about why we worship in the first place. Think about the common, maybe unspoken assumption. Why do people worship? Is it just some obligation, a duty? Is it because God is some cosmic being that has a fragile ego and needs our constant praise and attention?
Look, the traditional view often frames God as being the one who's needy, who desires our praise, and our job is to just give it out of duty. But the Racham view, it flips that script completely. In this picture, God isn't needy at all. God is the giver, the one who desires to offer this caress. So our role, then, isn't to give something God lacks, but to put ourselves in a position to receive an intimacy that is absolutely essential for our own spiritual survival.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? Worship stops being about fulfilling a divine need and starts being about meeting a fundamental human one. It isn't for God's sake, it's for ours. It's the act of opening ourselves up to receive the very thing our souls need to actually live and thrive.
So all of this leaves us with one final, very personal question. If this divine caress isn't just a nice thought, but a genuine necessity for our spiritual health, then maybe the most important question we can ask ourselves is this: where in our busy, noisy lives can we make the quiet space to actually receive it?